symmetrical. Another very common style is the prairie style of architecture, and I can associate this style with the Frank Lloyd Wright homes, or perhaps familiar with very long horizontal lines. The buildings kind of hug the earth, so to speak. Also, too, very popular in the mid-20th century and kind of set the stage for what skyscrapers look like today, the international style of architecture. Brought from Germany to America with a man named Mies van der Rohe, who said less is more. Form should follow function. Oftentimes, these buildings are described as the glass box of architecture. Now, over time, the international style has evolved to include more decoration. Folks would claim that less is actually a bore. The postmodern style of architecture will still feature steel, glass, and stone on the exterior, but again, a little more decoration. As we come under the bridge here, I do want to highlight the Wrigley Building. Just on the right-hand side as we clear the Michigan Avenue Bridge, one of the 4 double-decker bridges here in Chicago. It was inspired by the White City, done by Graham Anderson, Probst, and White. Now, the White City was the nickname given to the World's Columbian Exposition of 1893, held here in Chicago. The building has 6 different shades of white glazed terracotta. Those shades actually get brighter as you go up. And on the right, where it says the Wrigley Building, reimagined, revitalized, that is the Chicago-style window. Large center pane, flanked by 2 panes on the side that, in fact, open. This was designed for ventilation. Now, the Wrigley Building was the first skyscraper ever built on the north bank of the main branch. It also, too, was the first skyscraper to have air conditioning and to be illuminated on the exterior. This is a 1.2-acre park in keeping with the zoning laws along the water's edge. You got to have a free, green, open space. And above it is the Donald Trump International Tower and Hotel, designed by Adrian Smith with the firm Skidmore, Owings & Merrill. 92 stories tall, 1,362 feet. It is Chicago's second tallest building. Now, I mentioned the use of a steel frame earlier. This is actually North America's largest poured-reinforced concrete structure. There are 720 million pounds of concrete. The glass and steel that you see on the exterior of the Trump Tower is called a curtain wall. It literally hangs on the facade of the building. What this allows you to do is have floor-to-ceiling windows without sacrificing structural integrity. Now, the structure on the right as we come under the bridge is the 330 North Wabash building, formerly the IBM building. It's the youngest building in Chicago to be a historic landmark. It was actually designed and built by Mies van der Rohe, the international style. And we do see the reflection of less is more. Form follows function. It does look like a glass box. The only ornamentation are the I-beams that run vertically along the facade of the building. Kind of interesting, too, the building is set back from the water a bit because the railroad used to come through here when it serviced the Sun-Times building, which used to be where the Trump Tower is now. Now, while in Chicago, Mies van der Rohe was an instructor at what is today called IIT. One of his students, Bertrand Goldberg, rejected the international style and argued instead that if there are no right angles in nature, there should be no right angles in architecture. A great reflection of this philosophy on the right, Marina City. These are twin 60-story poured-reinforced concrete structures. It does feature a boat dock, a couple of restaurants, as well as the House of Blues. It is one of the first residential developments on the Chicago River. Also, too, it's one of the first city-within-a-city concepts, which is to say all the needs for residents are met at the base. Now, Marina Towers are some of the most photographed buildings in the world, and you also see them in a number of films filmed here in Chicago. To the forward and right of the vessel, that kind of blue-green reflective glass on the right is in modern interpretation of the international style. The use of the colored reflective glass and those stainless steel I-beams running vertically give the building a little more decoration. It was designed by Bruce Graham, the same gentleman who built the Sears Tower as well as the John Hancock, both of which you will see on the tour. Now, the ABA, as we do call it, features a one-of-a-kind law museum on the first floor, and you'll notice also too the Bridge House Tavern, dockside dining. A lot of boats in the summer will tie off there, hop off, have a meal, hop back on their boat, be on their way. The boating culture in Chicago very much alive. We'll discuss a bit later the harbors and all the boats here in Chicago. Reminiscent of the industrial era when massive masted vessels used to cruise the Chicago River. This is the Reed Murdoch Center, a prairie-style, also to a Chicago-style warehouse done by George Nimitz. We see elements of the prairie style with the long horizontal brick lines. Now, the structure was built in 1914.
Un recorrido muy interesante por el río Chicago. Estamos escudriñando las entrañas de Chicago.
Very neat structure, again, very reminiscent of the industrial era here in the downtown Chicago area. Now, Chicago kind of prides itself on being at the forefront of going green, the green movement.
Estuvimos cenando ahí con nuestro amigo.
Structure that has a LEED certification, Leadership in Environmental and Energy Design. The building is called 300 North LaSalle. 2009 by the firm Pickard & Shilton. Now, it is postmodern in style, features a cafe as well as a high-end steakhouse on the water level. The building uses water from the top of the 60-story articulated glass and steel structure, you'll find an expansive green space. This green space actually that is the green space on top of the 60-story tower. Mitigates rain runoff and reduces pollution. That was the Chicago L train going by. The L is for elevated. It is our subway system. Now, portions of it do run subterranean. For the most part, though, however, it does run above ground. And that was also to the Wells Street Bridge, another double-decker. Under construction, they've been replacing it actually piece by piece. On the right, a great example of the Art Deco style done by Graham, Anderson, Probst, and White. It is the Merchandise Mart, paid for by Marshall Field. We see the limestone exterior. The building has very strong verticality. The step-like appearance on top, those setbacks, were part of the zoning laws in Chicago in the 20s and 30s. It allows more sunlight and more ventilation into the building. Now, the Merchandise Mart is the second biggest building in the world. The only building bigger than it is the Pentagon, which actually happens to be twice the size. And if you are interested in kind of getting a feel for how massive the Merchandise Mart is, look over your right-hand shoulder here past the Franklin Street Bridge, and while you look at it from here, I will tell you this.
Por tamaño.
When it was completed in the late 20s, early 30s, the building was home to 500 showrooms, 14 different wholesalers. It used to have its own zip code. It sits on 5 acres of land, and there are 8 miles of hallways. In the evenings, you'll find the upper portion of the Merchandise Mart, like a lot of structures downtown, is very handsomely illuminated. This area here is known as Wolf Point. It is where the main branch behind us meets the north branch to our right and the south branch to our left. In the 1830s, 1840s,